Well, some of you, if you have had enough patience to listen this long, are screaming, "This is a secular nation." So we are told many voters don't even believe in God. Some who do doubt if God is smart enough to write clearly. Therefore, God does not want his laws to govern America. Only Israel, and only ancient Israel, since modern Israel is secular too. Therefore, God's laws are not for the benefit of any nation today. Fortunately, America's founders reasoned otherwise, and the outlines of our laws to this day correspond to principles they found in the Bible, making America's laws unique among the laws of the nations of the world. But how Christian a nation is always relative. The history of Israel in the Bible tells how alternating generations turned away and turned back to God. Even so it has been in America, and even so it has been in the history of every people. Every nation contains Christians, and those Christians influence the course of that nation. The more Christians influence a nation, the more blessed the nation is. Psalm 33:12 says, "Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord." Even if it could be categorically said whether a nation is or was Christian, there's no spiritual, ethical, or legal reason for Christians to withhold whatever blessing God enables them to give their nation. Voters who know what is right should not vote instead for what is wrong in order not to offend those who don't know right from wrong. Isn't America secular enough already? Does America need to become so secular that there are no voters left who even try to bring equal opportunity to the least of these my brethren? Matthew 25. Shall we leave the Bible without champions in a world whose only champion of freedom of speech and the right to vote, the right of all citizens to an equal voice in selecting their own leaders, is the Bible? Well, the fact that the Bible is the champion and the source of our freedoms is not well known to Christians. It's not known at all, hardly at all, to Christians. So let's back that up a little bit. Take a look at Deuteronomy 1, verse 13. Compare that with Josephus and Antiquities 3.4.1. And notice also the footnote, which says that this method of electing leaders was copied in the early churches. This method of choosing the leaders, the judges, who served kind of a legislative function too, these judges under Moses were selected by the people who voted for them after listening to campaign speeches, according to Josephus. And the fact that this was the manner in which pastors were selected by the first churches for several centuries is confirmed in Calvin's Institutes, Book 4. Let me see, Book 4, chapters 3 to 4. Now this is all laid out in the documentary 1620, When Freedom Was Reborn. When Freedom Was Reborn, which you can view free at www.saltshaker.us. In the political forums where American voters decide whether our laws will reflect the principles of God or the principles of Satan, who, by the way, isn't into freedom, he prefers tyranny, shall we silence the representatives of God simply because they try to represent God? But on the subject of immigration, the issue has nothing to do with whether or not this is a secular nation. On this issue, it's the atheists who are more likely to vote mercifully towards immigrants, and it's Bible-believing conservative Christians who are more likely to vote as if Jesus' advice is unrealistic. On this issue, voting by the Bible will not be called inappropriate by atheists. Well, let me give you a couple of quotes from America's past. Listen to this. Man's laws cannot be very far out of the way when they are in accord with the laws of God. Guess who said that? The Iowa Supreme Court. In a case, Hunt versus Hunt. In 1852, it was a divorce case in which custody went to the father because the Bible gives fathers the responsibilities for educating children. Let me give you that quote again. Man's laws cannot be very far out of the way when they are in accord with the laws of God. Hunt versus Hunt, the Iowa Supreme Court, 1852. Here's another quote. This is George Mason arguing in 1771 against slavery. He made this argument before the General Court of Virginia. He said, all acts of the legislature apparently contrary to natural right and justice are in our laws and must in the nature of things be considered void. The laws of nature are the laws of God, whose authority can be superseded by no power on earth. A legislature must not obstruct our obedience to him from whose punishments they cannot protect us. All human constitutions which contradict his laws, we are in conscience bound to disobey. Let me give that again. All acts of legislature apparently contrary to natural right and justice are in our laws and must in the nature of things be considered void. The laws of nature are the laws of God, whose authority can be superseded by no power on earth. A legislature must not obstruct our obedience to him, from whose punishments they cannot protect us. All human constitutions which contradict his laws, we are in conscience bound to disobey.